Hi, this is a video for IT 221, and it's going to be for Chapter 10, Creating Functions, Procedures, and Triggers. First thing I'll do is look at the assignment real quickly. And basically we want to create some functions and procedures and a trigger at the end. Alright, so let's go back home. Come back down. There's a chapter here, so it's not the built-in functions. This time we're going to make our own functions. So I'm going to click on that. We'll open up the chapter. And we'll see we're going to create functions. We're going to create a function to insert an update, and we're going to create a trigger function. And I really encourage you to read this chapter. I'm going to kind of follow through it with the video, but it would be good to read it on your own. I'm going to pull that over and push it over onto my other screen so I can follow it as I do this. I'm going to go to PG Admin, and we're going to go up to Community Assist PG. So I need to refresh the server. I haven't done anything on this for a while. In fact, what I'm going to do real quickly is just start it again. Okay, so I'm going to open this up and this, give it the password. Okay, so Community Assist PG, I'm going to get a query tool. Okay. So, way back in the second assignment, we dealt with built-in functions. So, but you can also create your own functions. I'm going to create the very first function I'm going to create. So I'm going to highlight this. This is Chapter 10, Functions and Procedures. And we're going to start with a cube function. This is a stupid little function, but it gives you the idea of how a function will work. And I'm going to create function. I'm going to give it a name, cube. I could call it cube function. It's going to take an argument, and it's going to take a actually, I'm going to change this create or replace. Remember that from views. It's probably easier. Damn dog next door. And I'm going to give it a variable, and it's going to be of the integer type. So this is something that you pass into the function. All right, we have to say what kind of value it returns. So it returns an integer. So it takes in an integer as an argument, it returns an integer. And then I need to define the body. And one of the ways you can do this, there are differences, but I'm just going to put a couple of $signs there. And in the body, we'll have a begin, and I'm going to put an end in there. And what it's going to return, notice the difference between this, return versus returns. Returns tells it that it's going to return an integer at the end. Return is what it actually returns, and it's just going to be num times num times num. All right, that's what it returns. And then I'm going to define the end of the body with the $2 signs again. There are other ways to do this, and we'll look at a couple. And we have to say what language this is using. There are lots of choices. This one is using PL Q SQL. So procedural language, it's a procedural language. Not entirely sure what all the letters stand for. Sometimes you can use plain SQL, but you can also use like Python and other things. But right now it's PLP, procedural language procedure, something QSQL, or Postgres. Yeah, I don't know. Oh, this should be a G, Postgres SQL. Procedural language, Postgres SQL. All right, and we do a semicolon there. So I'm going to run that. I didn't like end. And I think it's because I left out a semicolon here. Let's try that again. So this time it was returned successfully. So if we go into schemas, and we want the public schema. One of the things that you can see is that there is a place for functions. And in the functions, there will now be, under C, there is a cube function. Right? So that's where they're saved. You might notice there's a lot of functions here, so actually there's a reason why you might want to put them in different schema, but we're going to just use the public schema. To run this function, I can just do select cube, or select function. No, I think it's just select cube. I'm just going to put a 3 in there. And I think that will work. So let's give it a shot. Yes, it did. It came up with 27. We could also select cube. It has to be an integer that goes in there. I'm trying to think of what I would want to do. If we were to do a field, so if we did like person key, you could cube the person key. It's a totally meaningless thing to do, but oh, here we have to say from person. And it would give you the cube of all the person keys, which is stupid, but that's what we could do there. All right, so this is a basic function. You give a function a name, what kind of arguments that it takes, what kind of thing it returns. You define the body of the function. You have begin and end here. This is the actual thing that it does. It's what's returned. And you do have to specify the language. All right, let's do a different function. Let's say that we're going to say that 10%. Well, let's do an odd number. Let's say that like 13% goes for maintenance and the rest to the charity from donations. So let's do a function. Create or replace And what we'll do is we'll call it, and we'll put this one in a different, so it's create a replace function. And I'm going to put this into, do we have the employee schema? We do, so I'm going to put it in the employee schema. So we'll just do employee schema dot and then give it a name, and we'll call it donation percentages. And it's going to take in an amount which will be double, actually not double, numeric. I'm going to press enter to put that down here just for, and it's also going to take a percentage which will also be numeric. Okay, so that's what it's going to do, and it's going to returns numeric. Okay, and then we're going to do the dollar signs again to define the body of it, and we'll do begin and we'll do end, and then in between, for now, I am going to return amount times percentage. Okay. And then after the end, we have to do the $2 signs to close the body. And the language, again, will be procedural language, Postgres, SQL. So let's try that. Okay, so that returned successfully, and it will be in the employee schema under functions. And here we only have the one function. That's why it's easier to put it into another schema. So I am going to run this. I'm going to do select. I'm going to do donation amount. And then I'm going to do the function, which I have to use the schema. Donation percentages. And it takes 2 arguments, so I'm going to do donation amount. And I'm pretty sure I'm going to look at donation real quickly to make sure that that's the name of the field. It is. So it takes donation amount, and we're going to do 13.13 as maintenance. I think. Okay, I'm not sure that's spelled right. I'm going to break this down just to make it look better. And then we're going to do a comma and do essentially the same thing. So I'm just going to copy this. Except that this will be 87, and we'll do charity. Okay, from donation. So let's try that. All right, so of $500, $65 goes to maintenance and $435 goes to charity, and etc. all the way down. Okay, so it worked. But what happens if somebody, I'm going to copy the whole thing, instead of entering 0.13, just entered 13 and 87. So it's successful, but that's not possible that out of $500, $6,500 would go to maintenance. So we can adjust, we can alter the function, and we can try to account for that. So we've got create or replace. It may or may not allow us to do this. Sometimes with big changes it doesn't. So I think what we have to do first is we need to drop employee schema dot donation percentages, and we need to also say drop function. All right, so I will do that. Okay, and then what we're going to do is we're going to make some changes, and we'll do it in the body. All right, we want to say if percentage is greater than 1. We're going to allow up to 100% to go in, but if percentage is greater than 1, then okay, and then what we'll do is we will return amount times percentage divided by 100. Okay, and then we'll add else, and then we'll just return what we would have originally returned. I'm going to indent this a little just to make it look a little nicer. And then we need an end if. All right, so we have an if that begins. We say if it's greater than 1, if the value in percentage is greater than 1, then divide it by 100. I can space that if you want. And then otherwise return just what we were returning before. So let's run that function again. Let's bring it all up. Oh, I didn't like, what did it not like? Oh, I didn't do the percents. I didn't close the body. I need to do that again. Is it down here? It is down here. I just didn't copy it. All right, come on, up. There we go. Now that returned successfully. I'm going to run the other two here again. So we'll run the original. That still works, $65 there. Now we're running it without any decimal points. Let me widen that out. It did the same. It gave us a bit too many zeros. But it did work. So we could probably, if we want, add a round. I don't know if this will work actually. Let's try to save that. Don't know that that will work. Mismatch right. don't need this parentheses. So let's try it again. So that said it's successful. Let's run again the one with the full numbers without the decimal places. It did round it. It all worked fine. Okay, so that's, if we look at this, we've got a regular function. We did put it in the employee schema. It takes 2 arguments. Arguments are just separated by commas. It returns numeric. We check to see if the percentage is greater than 1. If it is, then we divide by 100, and we're rounding it to 2. I think the other one was 4, but that's all right. Return an amount. Otherwise, we just return this. We end our if. So there's this if structure that we've never seen before. And then we end and do the language grouping. All right. I'm going to do another function. This is a function to create a username. All right. So I'm going to create or replace a function. I'm actually going to put this, the book doesn't, but I'm going to put it in the employee schema as well. Make username, and it's going to take in first name, text, and last name. Text. And I'm going to put this down here just to make it a little clearer. Returns text. Okay, and then we do as, give it a body, begin, end, and what I'm going to do is return, and I'm going to use lower for the whole thing. Substring, first name. We're going to take the first character. We're going to return basically just the first number. And then we're going to concatenate, which, if you remember from way back in chapter 2, is the 2 straight lines, the pipes, and I'll do last name. Okay. And then after the end, we have to do the language post PL P G SQL. So let's do that. First name, text, last name. First name plus last name. Comma, out of place. And, oh, I need a semicolon here. Okay, so that worked then. All right, so let's enter for each person. I'm going to do select let's do person last name. Let's do person first name, person last name. And then do the function. Employee schema, make username. And then we'll do, I'm going to put this down, person first name, person last name. From person. Okay. If we run that, it should give us a username for each person. C.J. Smith, S. Olson, T. Zimmerman, C. Master. And we've created a username for every person on the list. All right, so I'm going to go on to show you a function that returns a table. And then we'll go on to the so let's do I'm going to do create or replace function I have only got employee schema, so I'm going to use employee schema. In the book it uses donor schema. Get donations. All right, and it's going to take as an argument donor key, which is an integer. Okay, and it returns a table. When you return a table, you have to define that table right now. So I am going to, date is the name of the column, and it's going to be timestamp. Amount, numeric. The reason why date is quoted is that's a reserved value. And validation, which is UUID. Okay. Then I'm going to do an as. So we've defined the table that's going to be returned as, and we will do so $, begin and end, and we want to return a query. So we're returning the results of a query. And the query we're going to do is select donation date, donation amount, donation validation, from donation. Oh, got another line yet. Where person key equals donor key. And the donor key is what's coming in up here, right? There isn't actually a donor key in the table, so that's okay. And then we have to end it and say what the language is. PL, PG, SQL. Okay, let's try this. So we can use this. I'm going to say, this is a little bit different, but I'm going to do select star from, and then what we want to say is employee schema dot get donations. And we're going to enter 79 as a donation key. Right? So this is a way that, this is a function that would allow a donor to see what their donations have been. So this one has got $500 that is donated. This is the validation key for that they can use. And this is the date that they donated it. If we were to do, I'm just going to say randomly 45. Nobody has a donor. 45 doesn't have isn't a person key. Let's do like 32. All right, let's do 1. I think 1 is a donor. 3. Anyway, if you have their donation key, you can see how much they entered. Okay. We're going to do something that's called a procedure. And I'm going to do one that allows us to insert a new person. So somebody that's just got it. And it's something that we could do. So we're going to do create or replace function. I'm going to do this public function. Add person. Okay. Now, actually, let's bring this down because we need to have fields for all of the things that we would need to add into a person. So let's look at the tables person. So if we look at the columns, we don't need the person key because that will be added. But we do need last name, which will be text. We would need first name, that will be text. These don't have to match exactly and probably should not match exactly the fields. We need email, which would be text. We need phone, which will be text. I have announce. I'm going to leave that off because I'm not sure I've done that. We're going to do an apartment, which will be text. This is now from address, person address. We also need, so we got apartment, street. I don't know if you can hear the power tools, but my neighbors are in love with power tools. City, text, state. I'm going to put that in quotes because, as you can see, that's a reserved word. Double quotes, actually. Actually, let's do it as car 2. And then we've got zip code. And I have that as car 11. And we're going to put in their password. Car 50. Okay. And then at the bottom of this, I'm going to do returns void. So it's not going to return anything. But these are all the stuff that we need for a new person. I'm going to do start the body. And then we'll do a series of inserts, right? We're going to insert into person. And we need a list of all of the things that we're going to insert into. So we got person last name, person first name, person email, person primary phone. And person date added. All right, and then we're going to enter values. I'm going to go back to here, values. All right, so the values will be last name, first name, email, phone. I think that's it, except for the date, right? And we're going to do current timestamp. Okay. So we will do that. And then we're going to insert into person address. And we will want the person key, person address street, person address city. We could do a person apartment here too. I'm going to press enter. So person address state, person address zip code. Okay, and then we'll do values. And the values will be, remember the function we used? So we're going to get the curval. Person key sequence. All right, and then we're going to do apartment, street, city, state, which again should be put in double quotes. and then zip code. So we'll do all of those inserts. And then there's a couple of other places where we need to insert, which I'm going to do right now. We're going to insert into the login table. And then essentially we will be done with inserting the person. So insert into login table. And we will do, we need the person key. And we need person username. And we need person password. Okay. Now the values is a little bit weird here. But we're going to use the curval again for the person. Person key. We're going to use the employee schema dot, I'm looking up here where we made the username, make username. And we'll give it the first name, last name, and then we're going to create password. Now, do I have create password in here before I go using it? Yes, I do have create password. So I'm going to do create password, so that function, and we'll pass in their password. I believe that will be all that we have to do. So there's a lot of room where I could have made a mistake here. And I didn't do a begin end here because it's only SQL this time. There's nothing that's not part of SQL. So I do need to end it. But the language this time is just SQL. If you wanted to do a begin and end, you could. And then you would change the language to back to PLSQL. So this is because this needs to be returns void. Let me try it again. I spelled primary wrong. Person primary phone. So when you do this, you're likely to have lots of spelling and typo errors. It's just normal. Person key sequence does not exist. Yes, it does. What did I do wrong there? Oh, it needs to be quoted. All right, let's try it again. Oh. Period instead of a pizza, comma. login table. I left out the R. Yay, we're successful. All right, so let's use this really quickly and show how that would work. So we need to use this function, we need to select the person. I am going to we need to select our function, select add person. Then we need to add all of the things, all of the fields in the order that we have them up there. So we got last name, first name. So let's do Rogers. Again, because they're text, we need to quote them. Rogers. Joseph. Let's just do Joe. Joe Rogers at Hotmail. Let's just comma. Break it. 206555129. I know, I'm just making up a number, and again, that actually the phone numbers are text. 641 is the street number or the apartment. And then I'm going to do the street, which is 222, again needs to be quoted, 8th Avenue. We will do Seattle. Needs quotes again. So in real life, this would be like being entered into a form. Nine 8001. And we're going to just do Rogers pass. All right, let's look at that. So we'll try running this. So it returned null, which is good. That means it worked. So let's look real quickly. Let's do select star from person, and we'll just go to the bottom. And if we go all the way to the bottom, we'll see Joe Rogers with his email and his phone number. And if we do from, and his number is 137. So if we do person address, where person key, equal 137, we'll see that the address is there. And if we go to, instead of person address, let's go to login table. we'll see the login with the encrypted password. All right. Good. All of that worked. All right. I'm going to not do the update. To edit a person, well, maybe I will. I don't know if I want to type it all out. I don't know if I can. Copy it or not. I think I'm going to end this right now, and I will make a part 2 of this video, particularly with the noises outside. So I'm just going to say end part 1. Part 2 will have updates, update procedure, and triggers. All right, so we'll do that. I'll do that after a bit.